Eowyn didn't know the prince screaming behind those doors was her fate. She didn't know that every healer, every high-born Luna, every desperate remedy had failed for 2 brutal years, and tonight would be the breaking point. And she definitely didn't know that the simple act of kneeling beside him, when everyone else had fled, would shatter the walls around both their hearts and ignite a bond that would shake the kingdom of Valdros to its ancient foundations. All she knew was that the rags in her hands were soaked with blood that wasn't hers, and if she didn't finish scrubbing the healing wing floors before Madame Helda's next inspection, she'd lose her evening meal again. The stone was cold beneath her knees. It was always cold in Thornhaven's healing wing, no matter how many fires the servants lit or how thick the tapestries hung. Eowyn had stopped noticing years ago, the same way she'd stopped noticing the ache in her shoulders, the cracks in her knuckles, and the hollowness in her stomach that never quite filled. She scrubbed in steady circles, working the copper-stained water into the grout. A warrior had died here this morning. She hadn't known his name. She never did. The healers came. The healers failed. The bodies were carried out, and Eowyn cleaned what remained. That was the order of things. 23 years old, and this was her life. 6 more years of service to pay off her mother's debts. Debts accumulated during the wasting sickness that had stolen her slowly, painfully, over 2 long winters. Eowyn had been 17 when she'd signed the indenture contract, too grief-sick to read the fine print, too desperate to care. Now she cared. Now she understood that Madame Helda added charges faster than Eowyn could work them off. A broken bowl here, a soiled sheet there, mysterious fees for lodging, for candles, for the very air she breathed within these walls. She would die in this castle. Not dramatically, not heroically, just quietly, invisibly, scrubbing floors until her hands gave out and they replaced her with some other desperate girl. Eowyn pushed a strand of dark hair from her face and sat back on her heels, surveying her work. The stones gleamed wet in the torchlight. Good enough. Maybe. A crash echoed from the far corridor, followed by raised voices. Eowyn's head snapped up. The prince's chambers. Again. She'd never seen him, not properly. In 2 years of working the healing wing, she'd only caught glimpses. A shape thrashing against restraints, a shadow pacing behind heavy curtains. Once, a hand, pale and clawed, reaching past a door before someone slammed it shut. The other servants whispered about him constantly. Prince Kaelin, the Alpha King's only son and heir. Struck down by an assassin's cursed blade at 22. The wound in his side that refused to close, that wept dark blood and drove him to madness when the pain crested. The curse that had stolen his control, leaving him trapped between man and wolf, neither fully one nor the other. They said he'd been beautiful once, golden-haired, with his father's commanding presence and his late mother's gentle heart. They said he'd been kind, that he'd trained with the warriors not to prove dominance, but to learn their names, their families, their stories. Now they said he was a monster. Eowyn didn't know what to believe. She only knew that every full moon brought screaming. Every new healer brought hope that curdled into failure. And every Luna prospect, those high-born females paraded through the wing in silk and jewels, hoping to bond with the future king, took one look at what lay behind those doors and fled. 7 prospects in 2 years. 7 noble daughters who'd arrived with calculated ambition and left with terror in their eyes. The latest had come this morning. Lady Ravina of the Eastern Reaches, tall and silver-haired and dripping with political advantage. Eowyn had cleaned around her entourage for hours, invisible as always, listening to Lady Ravina's confident predictions about how she would be the one to calm the savage prince. Now those same corridors echoed with her screaming. The doors to the prince's chambers burst open. Lady Ravina stumbled out first, her silver hair tangled, her silk gown torn at the shoulder. Mascara streaked down her cheeks in dark rivers. Behind her, her attendants scrambled, one of them clutching a bleeding arm. "Cursed!" Lady Ravina gasped. "He's cursed beyond salvation. I can't. No amount of power is worth—" She didn't finish. Her attendants half-carried her down the corridor, their footsteps frantic against the stone. Then the healers emerged. Lord Varon, the court physician, his face a mask of practiced disappointment. Two assistants carrying medical bags. A warrior with scratch marks across his face. "Clear the wing," Lord Varon announced, his voice carrying with cold authority. "The prince requires solitude. No one enters until morning." Elowen pressed herself against the wall, making herself small, invisible. Lord Varon's gaze swept past her without registering her presence. To him, she was furniture, less than furniture. They left. All of them. The corridor emptied until only silence remained, and then she heard it. Not a scream this time, not a roar or a snarl or the crash of furniture being destroyed. A sound far worse, a sob. Quiet. Broken. The kind of sound that escaped when someone had no strength left to hold it in. Elowen's feet moved before her mind could stop them. She approached the open door, her pulse quickening with each step. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to follow the others, to stay invisible and safe and alive. But that sound, she knew that sound, had made it herself. Alone in her tiny servants' quarters, when the grief grew too heavy and the future stretched too bleak. She reached the doorway and looked inside. The room was destroyed. Furniture overturned, curtains shredded, a mirror shattered into 1,000 glittering pieces. And in the center of it all, slumped against the far wall, was the prince. He was shirtless, his torso wrapped in bandages that seeped dark crimson. His hair, golden as the stories claimed, hung lank and sweat-soaked across his face. His hands, tipped with claws that hadn't fully retracted, pressed against the wound in his side. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. Gray as thunderclouds, glazed with agony, and filled with such profound aching loneliness that Elowen felt it crack something open in her chest. He looked up, saw her. "Get out." His voice was raw, barely human. "Run like the others." Elowen should have obeyed. Instead, she stepped inside, crossed the ruined room, and knelt beside him. Before we continue, please take 2 seconds to like this video. Kaelin stared at her like she'd sprouted wings. "Are you deaf?" The words came through gritted teeth, each one costing him. "I said run. I heard you." Elowen didn't know why she wasn't running. Every rational thought in her head screamed that she was insane, suicidal, throwing away her worthless life for a stranger who'd just terrorized a noblewoman. But her body refused to move. Something deeper than thought, deeper than instinct, anchored her to this spot. "You're bleeding through your bandages," she said quietly. "The healers wrapped them wrong. Too tight on the left, too loose over the wound itself." Kaelin's laugh was bitter, broken. "And you know better than Lord Varon? Better than every healer in Valdros?" "I know how to wrap a wound. My mother was sick for 2 years. I learned." She reached toward his bandaged side, and his hand shot out, clawed fingers closing around her wrist. Not hard enough to break, just enough to stop her. "Don't." His voice cracked. "I can't control it. When the pain peaks, I lose myself. I could kill you without meaning to." Elowen looked at his hand around her wrist, at the claws that could slice her open with one twitch. Then she looked at his face, at the terror in his eyes. Terror not of her, but for her. "You won't," she said. "You don't know that." "No. But I'm choosing to believe it anyway." Something flickered across his expression. Confusion, suspicion, and beneath both, desperate, starving hope. His grip loosened. Elowen pulled her wrist free gently and reached for his bandages again. This time, he didn't stop her. The moment her fingers touched the blood-soaked linen, she felt it. A pulse of something warm spreading from her chest down through her arms into her hands. The prince's breathing, ragged and shallow, began to slow. His claws retracted, inch by inch, until human fingers pressed against the stone floor. Kaylin's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" "I don't know." And she didn't. This had happened before. Small moments she'd dismissed or ignored. A dying patient whose thrashing had stilled when she'd changed their sheets. A feral omega in the servant quarters who'd calmed when Elowen had touched her hand. She'd always told herself it was coincidence. Now, watching the prince's face smooth from agony into something approaching peace, she couldn't pretend anymore. "The pain," Kaylin breathed. "It's quieter." "How is it quieter?" "I don't—" The door slammed open behind them. "Step away from the prince." Lord Varen stood in the doorway, 2 guards flanking him. His face was pale with fury, his physician's robes billowing as he strode into the room. "I gave orders. No one enters until morning." His gaze found Elowen, and recognition flickered, the kind that placed her as servant, as nothing, as someone who had violated her station. "You. The floor scrubber. What do you think you're doing?" Elowen scrambled to her feet, her stomach tightening with dread. "I heard him, my lord. He was in pain. I only wanted to help." "Help?" Varen's laugh was sharp as glass. "You thought a servant girl could succeed where trained healers have failed for 2 years?" "She did." Kaylin's voice cut through the room. He was standing now, one hand braced against the wall, but standing. His eyes were clearer than they'd been in months. Elowen could see it, could see the guards seeing it, the shock rippling through the room. "The pain dulled when she touched me," Kaylin continued. "For the first time since the blade, I can think clearly. I can breathe." Varen's expression shifted. Something cold moved behind his eyes, there and gone so quickly Elowen almost missed it. "An interesting claim, Your Highness. Perhaps the episode was simply ending on its own. Coincidental timing with this girl's intrusion." "It wasn't coincidence." Kaylin straightened further, and Elowen saw the prince he must have been before the curse, commanding, certain. "Bring my father." King Aldrich arrived within the hour. Elowen had never seen the Alpha King up close. He was everything the stories promised. Tall, broad-shouldered, with silver threading through his dark hair and eyes that held the weight of a kingdom's sorrows. He looked at his son first, drinking in the sight of Kaylin standing, coherent, the claws and the madness temporarily at bay. Then his gaze shifted to Elowen. She dropped into the lowest curtsy she knew, her servant's dress pooling on the ruined floor. Her legs trembled. This man could end her life with a word. "Rise," King Aldrich said. His voice was quieter than she'd expected. Tired. "Look at me, girl." Elowen obeyed, lifting her eyes to meet the Alpha King's. He studied her for a long moment. "What's your name?" "Elowen, Your Majesty. I work in the healing wing, cleaning mostly." "And tonight you decided to enter my son's chambers when every healer, every guard, every highborn Luna has fled?" "Yes, Your Majesty." "Why?" The question hung in the air. Elowen could lie, could craft some acceptable excuse about duty or ignorance. Instead, the truth fell out. "Because he sounded lonely, Your Majesty. And I know what that feels like." Silence stretched through the room. Lord Varen shifted uncomfortably. The guards exchanged glances. King Aldrich's expression cracked, just slightly, revealing something raw beneath the royal mask. "Leave us," he said to Varen and the guards. "All of you, now." They filed out. The door closed, and Elowen stood alone with the Alpha King and his cursed son. "My advisors tell me the curse is spreading," King Aldrich said quietly. "That Kaylin has months, perhaps weeks, before it consumes him entirely. Every remedy has failed. Every alliance, every political marriage that might have given him a mate's bond to anchor him, has crumbled." He paused, looking at Kaylin with grief so profound it stole Elowen's breath. "Tonight, for the first time in 2 years, my son is standing before me without chains holding him down, without sedatives clouding his mind, because a servant girl knelt beside him when everyone else fled." The king turned back to Elowen, I don't know what gift you carry, but I am asking you, Elowen, will you stay with him? Help him? Give us time to find a true cure? Father, Kaelin cut in, you can't ask her to sacrifice herself for me. She has a life, a future. I'm indentured for 6 more years. The words escaped before Elowen could stop them. Both men looked at her. My mother's debts. Madame Helda holds my contract. I have no future, Your Highness. Not the kind you're imagining. Something dangerous flickered across Kaelin's face. Helda. She's notorious for trapping girls in cycles they can never escape. If you agree to this, King Aldrich said slowly, I will void your indenture contract tonight. You'll be free, regardless of the outcome. And I will grant you a pension, enough to live comfortably wherever you choose when this is over. I won't force you, Kaelin said quietly. Elowen looked at him and saw the same vulnerability from before. My father is desperate, but I won't let him trap you the way Helda did. If you walk away now, no one will stop you. No consequences. Just your freedom and the pension regardless. He meant it. Elowen could feel the sincerity radiating from him like heat. How long? She asked. 3 months, King Aldrich replied. That's the time Lord Varen estimates before. He couldn't finish. 3 months. 90 days. After 6 years of scrubbing floors with no end in sight, 3 months felt like nothing. Felt like hope. I'll stay. Relief broke across the king's face. Kaelin's expression was harder to read, gratitude and guilt tangled together. We should formalize the agreement, King Aldrich said. Kaelin, give me your hand, and yours, Elowen. She obeyed, placing her small hand in Kaelin's larger one. His skin was warm, almost feverish, and the moment their palms touched, she felt it again, that pulse of warmth flowing between them. But this time, something answered back. A thread of sensation wrapping around her chest and tugging gently. Kaelin inhaled sharply. His fingers tightened around hers. Do you feel that? He whispered. Before she could answer, King Aldrich spoke the formal words, binding the agreement. When he finished, Elowen's skin tingled where it touched Kaelin's. A mark shimmered briefly on her inner wrist, golden and delicate, then faded to something barely visible. The kingdom's oath mark, King Aldrich explained. It seals our bargain. 3 months of your service in exchange for your freedom and security. Seems like you're getting the worse end of this deal, Kaelin murmured, attempting lightness. Maybe, Elowen replied, or maybe it's a fair trade. We'll see. As she pulled her hand from his, she knew something more had sparked between them. Something neither of them was ready to name. By dawn, Elowen's life had transformed beyond recognition. She was moved from the cramped servants' quarters, a windowless closet she'd shared with 3 other girls, to chambers adjoining the prince's wing. Real chambers. With a bed that had an actual frame, a window overlooking the castle gardens, and a fireplace that someone else would tend. Her few possessions looked pathetic, spread across the carved wooden dresser, a comb with missing teeth, a faded ribbon that had belonged to her mother, a prayer book she couldn't read because no one had ever taught her letters. These are temporary quarters, Madame Helda had spat when she'd delivered Elowen's things, her face purple with barely contained rage. Don't get comfortable. 3 months from now, you'll be back on your knees where you belong, assuming the beast doesn't kill you first. The door had slammed. Elowen had stood in the center of her new room, trembling, waiting for someone to burst in and tell her it was all a mistake. No one came. A knock sounded mid-morning, soft and respectful. Elowen opened the door to find a young woman about her own age, with copper hair and kind eyes. I'm Mirren, she said, offering a warm smile. His Majesty assigned me as your attendant. I'm here to help you settle in and explain your duties. She paused, taking in Elowen's threadbare dress. First things first, when did you last eat a full meal? Elowen couldn't remember. Mirren's smile flickered with sorrow. Right. Bath first, then food. Then we'll talk about the prince. The bath was hot, scented with herbs Elowen couldn't name. She sank into the copper tub, and felt muscles she didn't know were clenched slowly release. Elowyn stared at her hands beneath the water. The same hands that had scrubbed stone floors for 6 years. The same hands that had touched the prince and somehow quieted his curse. What was she? After the bath, Mirren returned with a tray of food and a dress that made Elowyn's breath catch. Deep green wool, soft as clouds, with delicate embroidery at the sleeves. She ate slowly, savoring every bite. Real bread. Fresh butter. Tea that tasted like flowers instead of dishwater. A younger servant girl appeared partway through, carrying a pot of fresh tea. She was thin, nervous, with mousy brown hair and downcast eyes. Couldn't have been older than 15. "Senna," Mirren said gently, "you can set that on the table." The girl obeyed, her hands trembling slightly as she poured. Elowyn noticed the way she flinched when footsteps sounded in the corridor, the way her sleeves were pulled low over her wrists. "Thank you," Elowyn said softly. Senna's eyes lifted briefly, surprised. "You're welcome, miss." Then she was gone. "She works in the healing wing," Mirren explained. "Assists Lord Varen directly. Poor thing is terrified of her own shadow." Elowyn filed that away, uncertain why it felt important. "The prince," she said finally. "What should I expect?" Mirren hesitated. He wasn't always like this. Before the curse, everyone loved him. He remembered the servants' names, brought gifts back from his travels for the kitchen children. And now? Now the pain makes him forget who he is. The wolf rises when he's weakest, and he can't control the shift. He's hurt people without meaning to. He hates himself for it. Mirren met Elowyn's eyes. He's not a monster. He's a good man trapped in a nightmare. Elowyn thought about the sob she'd heard through the corridor, the loneliness in his eyes. "When do I see him?" "This afternoon. Lord Varen wants to observe your effect on him." Something flickered across Mirren's face. "Be careful around Lord Varen. He's served the crown for 40 years, and he's brilliant, but—" "But?" Mirren lowered her voice. "Some of us wonder if he truly wants the prince healed. A cursed heir is a weak heir. And there are those who might benefit from that weakness." A chill crept down Elowyn's spine. Another knock came at the door. "Miss Elowyn," a guard's voice. "The prince is asking for you. He says the pain is returning." Mirren squeezed her hand. "Go. He needs you." Elowyn stood, smoothed her new dress with trembling hands and walked toward the door. Toward her fate. The prince's chambers had been cleaned since the night before. Furniture righted, glass swept away, fresh curtains hung. But Elowyn could still smell it beneath the lavender and sage, copper and sweat, and something darker. Kaelin sat in a chair by the window, his jaw clenched tight, his hands gripping the armrests until his knuckles went white. Lord Varen stood nearby, making notes in a leather journal. "Ah, the miracle worker arrives," Varen said without looking up. "Come. Sit beside him. Let's see if last night was truly extraordinary or merely a fortunate coincidence." Elowyn crossed the room and knelt beside Kaelin's chair. His eyes found hers, gray as winter steel and swimming with agony. "You came back," he said, his voice tight. "I thought you might change your mind. I gave my word. Words are easy to break." "Not mine." She took his hand. The warmth flowed immediately, traveling from her chest through her arm and into him. Kaelin's grip loosened. His breathing slowed. The lines of pain around his eyes softened. "Fascinating," Varen murmured, scribbling furiously. "Tell me, girl, has anyone in your family demonstrated unusual abilities?" Elowyn's throat tightened. "My mother could sense when someone was close to death. She knew my father would die in the mines 3 days before the collapse. And she didn't warn him? She tried. He didn't believe her. No one ever believed her." Varen's quill paused. "Interesting. A hereditary gift. Rare, but not unprecedented." He snapped the journal shut. "I'll need to study this further. Daily sessions, carefully documented." "She's not an experiment," Kaelin said sharply. "She's a person. Treat her as such." Varen's smile was thin as paper. Of course, Your Highness. He left, and the room felt lighter for his absence. The days folded into a rhythm. Each morning, Elowin came to Kaelin's chambers when the pain was worst. She'd sit beside him, sometimes holding his hand, sometimes simply being present, and that warmth would flow between them. The curse didn't disappear, but it quieted. Each afternoon, she explored the castle with Mirren as her guide. She learned Thornhaven's hidden passages and forgotten gardens, its kitchen where the cook slipped her extra pastries, and its library where books lined every wall. I could teach you, Kaelin offered one evening when she'd admitted her illiteracy. To read, if you want. You're a prince. Princes don't teach servant girls their letters. Former servant girl. His smile was crooked. And I'm a prince who spent 2 years being useless. Let me be useful for something. So they added lessons to their routine. Kaelin was patient, guiding her through letters and sounds with steady focus. Elowin learned quickly, hungry for knowledge. And somewhere in those quiet hours, something shifted. She stopped seeing him as the cursed prince, the monster behind the door. She started seeing Kaelin, the way he laughed at his own mistakes, the way he asked about her thoughts, her dreams, and listened like her answers mattered. He started seeing her too, not as a remedy or a tool, but as Elowin. Why don't you fear me? He asked one night, a week into their arrangement. The curse had flared badly that afternoon, and she'd stayed through it, holding his hand while his body convulsed. I've spent 6 years being afraid of Helda, afraid of poverty, afraid of dying alone. She met his eyes. I'm tired of fear, Kaelin, and you've never given me reason to feel it. His hand found hers in the darkness, not because he needed the warmth this time, just because he wanted to touch her. I don't deserve your faith. Maybe not, but you have it anyway. 3 weeks in, Elowin noticed the patterns. The curse flared worst after Varen's examinations. Every time the physician visited, administering tonics to speed healing, the pain would spike within hours. Kaelin would lose himself to the wolf, and Elowin would spend the night bringing him back. His treatments aren't working, she told Mirren quietly. They're making things worse. Mirren's face went pale. Be careful who you say that to. Varen has the king's ear. That night, Elowin couldn't sleep. She crept through the darkened corridors to Varen's private study. A hairpin, a careful twist, and the lock clicked open. Inside, she found shelves of journals. She couldn't read all the words yet, but she'd learned enough to recognize names, dates, Kaelin's name, repeated across dozens of entries, and a phrase appearing again and again. Progression satisfactory, subject remains dependent. She turned to the most recent journal and sounded out the words slowly. The Omega complicates matters. Her presence slows the curse's advancement. If she remains, the prince may stabilize beyond acceptable parameters. Recommend separation. If separation fails, alternative measures required. Alternative measures. Elowin grabbed the journal and fled. She found Kaelin on the eastern balcony, their spot now, where the moonlight turned his golden hair to silver. You're shaking. He caught her arms the moment she reached him. What's wrong? She thrust the journal at him. Read this. All of it. His expression darkened with each page. By the time he finished, his hands were trembling. He's been poisoning me. The words came out flat. 2 years. The man my father trusts above all others. There's more. Elowin forced herself to continue. He wants me gone. If separation doesn't work, he'll use alternative measures. Kaelin's eyes met hers. In them, she saw fury, but beneath it, terror. He'll kill you to get to me. We have to tell your father. Varen will deny it. He'll claim you forged the journal. Kaelin's claws extended, then retracted. I have to kill him. Tonight. No. Elowin grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. If you kill him without proof, you become what they whisper you are. We do this right. We gather evidence, find witnesses, and build a case. Together. together. He breathed the word like a prayer. You should run. Disappear somewhere Varen can never find you. I'm not leaving you. Why? The question cracked open. You owe me nothing. 3 months of service, that's all we agreed. Elowin's mind told her to step back, protect herself. Instead, she rose on her toes and kissed him. Kaelin went rigid with shock. Then his arms wrapped around her, and he kissed her back with 2 years of loneliness poured into every breath. His hands cradled her face like she was precious beyond measure. When they broke apart, both gasping, he pressed his forehead to hers. I'm falling in love with you, he whispered. I think I have been since you knelt beside me that first night, but I have nothing to offer except a curse and enemies, and a future that might end in flames. Then we burned together. Elowin's voice shook, but she meant every word. I spent 6 years with no future at all. Whatever time we have, I choose to spend it with you. You deserve better. I deserve to choose for myself. And I'm choosing you, Kaelin. The prince and the wolf, and everything in between. His arms tightened around her. She felt wetness on her cheek and realized he was crying. After we stop Varen, he said quietly, after I can offer you something other than danger, ask me again. Ask me to be yours. She smiled against his chest. That sounds like my line. I stole it. I'll make it up to you. They had 5 days until the monthly council meeting, when they could present the journal and demand Varen answer for his crimes. But Varen moved faster. On the 3rd day, Elowin woke to chaos. Guards flooded the prince's wing. Mirren burst into her chambers, pale as bone. They've arrested Kaelin. Elowin's blood turned to ice. What? Lord Varen went to the king this morning. He claims the prince attacked him last night. He has witnesses. Guards who say they pulled Kaelin off him. That's impossible. Kaelin was with me last night. Your word against a lord physician and 4 royal guards. Mirren's voice broke. They're talking about putting him down. Execution. They say he's too far gone. Elowin threw on her dress and ran. She found King Aldrich in the great hall, Varen at his side, looking battered with a bandage wrapped around his head. Self-inflicted, Elowin realized. Your Majesty. She dropped into a curtsy. The prince didn't attack anyone. He was with me. Varen's smile was pitying. The Omega is compromised. The bond has clouded her judgment. It's the truth. Then explain this. Varen produced a piece of parchment. A letter, found in the prince's chambers, detailing plans to assassinate me. Written in his own hand. Elowin's stomach dropped. That's forged. The royal scribe has confirmed the handwriting. Varen shook his head. The curse has consumed him. The boy we knew is gone. King Aldrich looked broken. Where is my son now? The dungeon, chained with silver. Varen paused. The council will convene tomorrow to decide his fate. I recommend a swift mercy. Tomorrow. They were going to kill Kaelin tomorrow. Elowin needed a witness. Someone who'd seen what Varen really was. And then she remembered. The servant girl. Senna. The way she'd flinched. The sleeves pulled low over her wrists. She caught Mirren's eye and mouthed one word. Senna. Her name was Senna. 15 years old. She'd been working in the healing wing for 2 years. Elowin found her in the kitchens, scrubbing pots with mechanical emptiness. I need to talk to you, about Lord Varen. Senna's hand stilled. Terror flickered across her young face. I can't. He'll kill me. He's going to kill the prince tomorrow, and then he'll kill me. The only way we survive is by stopping him together. Senna's eyes welled with tears. You don't understand. He makes me add things to the prince's medicine, powders that make the pain worse. When I tried to refuse, she pulled back her sleeve, revealing a map of scars across her forearm. He said no one would believe a servant. Elowin's heart shattered for this girl. They'll believe 2 servants. We testify together. We show them the journal, your scars, everything. What if it doesn't work? Then at least we tried. Eowyn took the girl's scarred hands. At least we fought back. Senna was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Tell me what to do. That night, Eowyn went to the dungeon. The guards tried to stop her, but she invoked the oath mark on her wrist. The king granted me access for 3 months. Those 3 months aren't over. They let her pass. Kaelin was chained to the far wall, silver manacles burning his wrists. When he saw her, his eyes widened. You shouldn't be here. I have a witness. Senna. She's going to testify. Hope flickered in his eyes, then died. It won't be enough. Then I'll make it enough. Eowyn. His voice cracked. If this fails, run. Don't let them execute you alongside me. No. Please. No. She kissed him softly, tasting salt from both their tears. I told you. We burned together. That wasn't poetry. It was a promise. His chains rattled as he strained toward her. I love you. Whatever happens tomorrow, I love you. I love you too. She pressed her forehead to his. And tomorrow, I'm going to save your life. The council chamber was packed. Every lord and lady of Valdros had gathered to witness the cursed prince's sentencing. King Aldrich sat on his throne. Varin stood at his right hand. Bring in the prisoner. Guards hauled Kaelin into the chamber. The silver chains had left raw wounds around his wrists, but his head was high. His eyes found Eowyn across the room. Prince Kaelin of Valdros, you stand accused of attempted murder against Lord Varin. How do you plead? Not guilty. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Varin's expression flickered. The evidence is overwhelming, Your Highness, Varin said. 4 witnesses saw you attack me. I have a witness too. Every head turned toward Eowyn. She stepped forward, Senna close behind. This is highly irregular, Varin began. Let her speak. King Aldrich's eyes were fixed on Eowyn. She bears the oath mark. She has the right. Eowyn took a breath. Lord Varin has been poisoning Prince Kaelin for 2 years. The curse should have faded months ago, but Varin has been adding compounds to his treatments that amplify the pain. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Varin laughed. Absurd. The ravings of a lovesick Omega. This girl can confirm it. Eowyn pulled Senna forward. She works in the healing wing. Varin forced her to add the poisons herself. Senna's voice shook, but she spoke clearly. It's true. He gave me powders to mix into the prince's medicine. When I tried to refuse, he burned me. She showed her scars. He said no one would believe a servant. The chamber erupted. Varin's face went calculating. 2 servant girls, he said loudly. 1 bonded to the prince, 1 clearly bribed. This is a desperate ploy. Then explain this. Eowyn held up the journal. Your own records, Lord Varin, detailing every dose, every plan. She opened to a marked page. Progression satisfactory. Subject remains dependent. Your words. Varin moved faster than she expected. A blade flashed in his hand. He lunged toward Eowyn. She threw herself sideways, but the blade caught her arm, slicing deep. She cried out as she fell, but Varin never reached her. Kaelin had broken his chains. Silver manacles hung in shattered pieces from his wrists. He stood between Eowyn and Varin with the wolf blazing in his eyes. Not mindless rage, but controlled power. Touch her again, Kaelin said, his voice layered with a growl. And I will tear out your throat. Varin stumbled backward. Your Majesty, he's a monster. Enough. King Aldrich had risen from his throne. His voice carried the weight of decades. I trusted you. My father trusted you. And all along, you were torturing my son. Your Majesty, I can explain. The journal explains enough, as does your blade, drawn in a council chamber, aimed at an unarmed woman. King Aldrich's voice was ice. Guards, take Lord Varin to the dungeon. Guards swarmed Varin, wrestling the blade from his grip. He screamed protests, but no one listened. Kaelin was already kneeling beside Eowyn, pressing his torn shirt against her bleeding arm. You're hurt. It's a scratch. She was shaking, but laughing too. I told you we'd save you. You magnificent woman. He pulled her close. You wonderful, impossible. She kissed him to shut him up. The council chamber dissolved into chaos around them, but they didn't care. Varen's trial lasted 3 days. The evidence was overwhelming. Senna's testimony opened the floodgates. Other servants came forward with their own stories. He was found guilty of treason, torture, and attempted regicide. He hanged at dawn. Alawen didn't attend. Instead, she sat in the castle gardens with Kaelin, watching the sunrise paint the mountains gold. His hand held hers, warm and steady, free of tremors for the first time in 2 years. The curse was fading. Without Varen's poisons, Kaelin's body had begun healing itself. The wound had finally closed, leaving only a silver scar. The healers say I'll make a full recovery, he said quietly. I'll be whole again. You were always whole, just temporarily fractured. His laugh was soft. Is that what we're calling it? Silence stretched between them, comfortable and warm. Our agreement is fulfilled, he said. You've more than earned your freedom. You can go anywhere, do anything. Alawen's chest tightened. Are you asking me to leave? I'm asking what you want. His eyes held hers, open and vulnerable. Because what I want is to wake up beside you every morning for the rest of my life. What I want is to court you properly. What I want is to make you my queen, if you'll have me. Her breath caught. But only if it's what you want, too. He cupped her face, thumbs brushing away tears she hadn't realized she'd shed. I promised I'd never trap you. If you want to walk away, I'll let you go. You absolute fool. She laughed through her tears. I knelt beside a monster everyone else fled from. I stole a lord's journal and accused him of treason. I took a blade meant to kill me. She covered his hands with her own. Do you really think I did all that just to walk away? Hope cracked open across his face. Is that a yes? It's a yes to everything. The courting, the mornings, the future. She kissed him softly. The queen part might take getting used to. We'll figure it out together. Together. She smiled. I like the sound of that. The bonding ceremony was held under the harvest moon 3 months later. Alawen wore gold silk that caught the moonlight, with her mother's faded ribbon woven through her hair. Kaelin wore formal black, but he'd insisted on showing his wrists, the scars from the silver chains he'd broken to save her. Battle marks, he'd called them, the best kind. Senna stood among the witnesses, no longer a servant but an apprentice healer. When Kaelin and Elowen spoke their vows, the bond snapped fully into place, not a chain, but a bridge. I choose you. Kaelin whispered against her lips. I choose you back. Every day. Forever. The celebration lasted until dawn. Mirren spun Elowen across the dance floor while Kaelin watched with a smile that could have lit the entire hall. Later, much later, they slipped away to their chambers. Tell me something, Kaelin said, tracing lazy patterns across her shoulder. Something I don't know. Elowen thought for a moment. I used to dream about being invisible, disappearing so completely that nothing could ever hurt me. And now? Now I'm the most visible woman in Valdros. And somehow that feels safer than hiding ever did. Because you see me, the real me, and you stayed. He kissed her forehead. I'll always stay. Your turn. Kaelin was quiet. The night you found me, I was ready to give up. The pain was too much. I decided that if one more person ran from me, I'd find a way to end it. Elowen held him tighter. Then you walked in. This exhausted servant girl with no fear in her eyes. You knelt beside me like it was nothing. His voice broke. You gave me a reason to keep fighting. You gave me everything. You gave me everything too. Freedom. Purpose. Love. Fair trade. He murmured. She smiled, remembering the girl she'd been, invisible, trapped, and scrubbing floors with no hope. That girl wouldn't recognize her now. Wouldn't believe any of this was possible. But it was. Because she'd heard a broken prince crying alone in the darkness, and instead of running, she'd knelt beside him. The simplest choice. The one that changed everything. Where are you listening from? Let me know in the comments. I love connecting with you. And if this story touched your heart, please subscribe. It's free, and it helps more people find these tales of love and hope.